Hi, English 365. This is Trey Leger, and I'm a senior at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, studying kinesiology. And today I will be presenting to you a new technology in the field of physical therapy called the exoskeleton. And that's exactly what is pictured right here. I specifically researched a new exoskeleton that was created in 2020 by the company called Exobionics. This exoskeleton is utilized in outpatient physical therapy clinics, occupational therapy clinics, nursing homes, inpatient rehabs, and also labor-intensive workforces. I will focus on talking about all of the experiences that I have researched in physical therapy clinics. Okay, so this assisted device is designed to improve walking ability for patients suffering from paralysis, multiple sclerosis, and neurological conditions. I first interviewed a physical therapist to talk about his experience with a patient who suffered from a traumatic brain injury, and he said that the exoskeleton was a really great progress during the plan of care. And actually, you can see pictured here, it has the pelvic girdle strap right here, the hip and knee attachments, and the foot attachments. And those are the main things that he talked to me about. He said the hips, knees, ankles, and pelvis are the main things that are needed for a patient that is trying to recover from paralysis. So this pelvic strap right here really gets the patient into the proper body mechanic that they need to not have anterior pelvic girdle tilt, which means like the patient's bottom would stick out, or posterior pelvic girdle tilt, which means their pelvis would pop up. So that prevents that from happening. That's a big compensation for paralysis patients. And he said specifically in the ankles, two motions, one called plantar flexion, which is when you plant your foot down, and one called dorsiflexion is really emphasized when rehabbing for this condition. So he said using the remote control that you can see right here, the physical therapist has the ability from a distance to control it to get them into dorsiflexion, because that's the most common motion in patients with paralysis that they're suffering with, is getting into dorsiflexion. Okay, and then right after I interviewed a physical therapist, I then interviewed the patient. The patient suffered from a traumatic brain injury, and he talked to me about his experience with the exoskeleton. The specific exoskeleton that he used from Exobionics was called the ReWalk 6.1 exoskeleton, and he was actually granted the whole skeleton free of charge by the clinic that he worked with, because it's a research hospital. The original cost for this is $150,000. Okay, so he told me that he enjoyed his experience using the exoskeleton suit. It did get him some progress throughout his therapy, but unfortunately it wasn't his favorite part of therapy. He said his favorite part of therapy was using the ergo trainer, which is also created by the same company, Exobionics, which I did my research on. So the ergo trainer is very similar to this product, but it's actually a lower extremity suit with an upper extremity suit, and the patient uses it on a treadmill, to which they are then connected to a harness on top of their head, then connected to the ceiling. So the point of all of those connections is just to get the patient into the proper posture and balance needed to gain the walking ability and gait patterns that the patient is trying to get, either from a stroke or traumatic brain injury or paralysis. The patient that I interviewed then talked to me a little bit about his experience during his transition period, because he did have to go to 4 different hospitals. So he said right after using the exoskeleton in the clinic for about a month, is then about a month later he transferred to a new clinic, and they actually did also use the exoskeleton suit there. So he did mention that. Overall, throughout my research, I did some other interviews with other patients and other clinicians, and I did some research through some peer articled reviews. I have found out that the exoskeleton is, its main purpose is just to get people to have a high productivity rate in their clinics, or actually in military groups, firefighter groups, or also labor-intensive industrial workforces. Thank you so much.